Lovely.
All right, everybody. So welcome for everybody who's here. My name is Nikki Aiello. I am a recovery and wellness coach and yoga teacher here in Denver, Colorado. And I've started these super awesome interviews with all of my favorite people and inspiring doctors, creatives, just inspiring movers and shakers around, and healers, educators, all sorts of people, all sorts of people. And Dameda is here because I feel like she is incredibly inspiring. I feel like she's a force. I'm not the only one that feels that way, for sure. And she's an emerging activist here in Denver. And there's a lot of stuff happening in the world of just humanity and politics and waking up. And I think she's a perfect person to talk to about this. So everyone, this is Lynn Finney. She's a dear friend of mine, an incredible, incredible woman, as you can probably already sense. And I'm just going to introduce her with a little bit of a background for everybody, and then we can conversate. So Dameda Lynn Finney is an emerging community activist, or I'm sorry, let me start over. Dameda is an emerging community advocate whose purpose on this earth is to connect humans to themselves and to others through compassion and love. She is inspired by the healing and upliftment of her Black people spirits while understanding the importance of healing her own through self-love and self-discovery. Although Dameda has she has plenty of experience in humanology. It's the first time I've heard that term that we were discussing, and I just want to go on to say that she has much experience in the art of connecting and is determined to educate, elevate, and liberate through it. So, Dameda, hi.
Hi, Nick.
Welcome to my show.
Thank you. What an honor. What an honor to be here with you.
So, I've titled this interview as Dameda, you're being an emerging activist here in Denver and elsewhere, and to talk about your the Black Empower Project, the Empower Black,
yes,
that you are creating and will be evolving over time. So, first of all, let's talk about you as an emerging activist. Like, what is that all about? What is driving you? What does this mean? What do you see? What's happening?
Yes, well, first I wanted to talk about the difference between, because I know we use both terms, pardon me, the activist versus advocate. And I would like to say, in honor of activism, I'd like to say that I am more of an advocate. I feel like emerging advocate is because moving into more of the support role. So the difference I feel between an activist and an advocate is the activist is like executing. They're on the front lines. They're protesting. They're doing all of that. And advocate is more of a amplifier, like amplifying the voices of the activists. So I feel like I'm more in that role right now, is amplifying the voices of these young activists and activists in general. So I first like to say that.
Okay.
Yes, please.
I was going to say, when you're amplifying these voices, whose are you feeling most inspired to amplify? You don't have to give them by name, but as far as like the message or the general groups, what's resonating with you?
I definitely think I see these young people out on the front lines, like fighting and protesting and, in the struggle. So I definitely would like to provide a forum for that. And also, I think it's really important for the healing of Black women. And so wanting to provide a space for Black women in their healing in the process of that.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, and you mentioned that also to me, and in your bio, talking about your own healing.
Yes.
And you and I, so those of you, Dameda and I are dear friends.
Yes.
We're very dear friends. And so I know a lot about her. And we've talked about how this whole movement and these times have brought up a lot just within your own experience of who you are and your relationship to what's happening around. And I just think it's really Interesting. And maybe actually, if you wouldn't mind giving your background a little bit, like where are you from? How long have you been here in Denver? What was your growing up experience like? Let's give people some context of you.
Sure, sure. Yeah, so I am from Des Moines, Iowa, and I grew up there. I moved out to Colorado when I was 24, and so I've been here for half of my life. So I'm 50 years old right now. And growing up, I was predominantly, I mean, beautiful, loving family. I grew up with two sisters and a brother. And it's so interesting to me because I found that I was constantly in white spaces. And I think my brothers and sisters were more in black spaces, at least it seemed as so. But I was so much younger. I was 5 years younger than all of them. So there wasn't really the time where we were all hanging out together. So I was very social, but I was mostly in groups that consisted of white people. So I felt like I was more comfortable in white communities, which now is something that I'm really working through, because a part of that was me not accepting myself as a black person. And that's something, again, that I'm healing around and coming into. So it's all very new for me. And it's been a really beautiful healing process, which has led me to the Empower Black Project, because the mission behind that is actually to inspire Black people to love themselves from the inside out through self-discovery and healing. And I came into that very deeply during COVID when I just recognized that, you and I had a couple situations that we've spoken about, that I was really able to uncover some really deep wounds around my rejection of my Blackness. So, and the internalized racism that I know we'll talk about in a bit. But so it became a really important thing for me, and I was able to see the need for Black people with that, with the healing, around the healing.
How long have you been in Denver, and what has your experience been here? Like, what age did you come?
Yeah, so I came when I was 24, and the same experience. I mean, I definitely fell in. I have predominantly white friends, and I'm just recently starting to curate friends more in Black groups because it's definitely my desire. And I also recognize that the more comfortable I've become with myself as a Black woman, the more that I'm putting myself in those environments. So I have been mostly in white spaces, and I have been comfortable up until this point. I'm still comfortable, but there's definitely, in certain circumstances, there's some anxiety and there's some fear around trust and not knowing if I'm safe. And that's a new thing for me, and it's a tough one, but it's real.
And safe in what terms?
Well, I honestly don't know how white people would respond to me. And especially, I mean, you and I, we went up to the mountains. We were in Grand Lake not too long ago. And I had to work through some stuff because I was going to take a mountain biking trip, and I was going to go by myself. And I actually started to have these thoughts of like, I'm in this space, it is white, and I don't know, some crazy white person can come out and do something. And so even having those thoughts are very new. And so thinking about where I'm moving, the spaces that I'm navigating is a different experience for me. But it definitely is real because I mean, that's where I'm at. It's the trust factor, just learning to trust. So it's just very, very different.
That's almost like a physical fear, like physical.
For sure.
Right.
For sure. And go ahead. Did you want to ask something?
No, keep going.
Well, and I shared this with you yesterday too. It was a situation, a friend of mine, he's brown, and he and his boyfriend own a business. And so they had a situation, there's a white woman that lives next door and thinks that they are actually selling crack or whatever it is. But so she's been calling the police and filing reports and harassing their clients. And so things like that, it just makes me, and I know this person, she's a white woman, she has a Black Lives Matter poster in her window. And so that's where I'm saying, like, I'm just navigating that space of learning to trust. Who do I trust? Who do I not trust? And so I've been keeping myself in spaces, small spaces, with people that I trust and that I know that I can just show up and be myself in my fear and in my love and all of the things. And so I want to say to you, thank you for being one of those people.
I'm honored to be.
Yeah.
It's been really, I feel really fortunate to be able to have like tough conversations,
Yeah.
you know, with you about, you know, White Fragility is like one of the first books that you recommended to me almost 2
Yeah.
years ago now, before all
Yeah.
of
Has
this
it been that
started.
long
You're like,
already?
every white person should read this book.
Yes.
And it was been so enlightening and so like hard to swallow a lot of just this information and the realization that I'm getting from all of that. And then to even just have conversations with you where I am a white person, I am your white friend, but at the same time, you're being able to talk to me about, just your distrust of the
Yeah.
white population in general,
Yeah.
because of so much.
Yeah.
And so it's just been I've felt really honored to be able to like have that conversation and still be in that population,
Yeah. Absolutely.
but
Yeah.
it's just been really, really, really amazing. So, and I don't have that many Black friends, honestly. I
Yeah.
grew up in Denver, I grew up in
Yeah.
this side of, West Side suburbs. So, I had one close Black friend growing up, but she was adopted by a white family. So, she had very white culture background. And then, a few friends growing up, especially as I moved to different places when there's, more color. But Denver's, it's Denver
It's
proper
white.
is
Yeah.
pretty white. There's definitely, other parts that have a lot of color, but there's not a lot of mix,
Yeah.
and so it's just
Absolutely.
like, it's a fascinating, place to live and be, and like to go to a bigger city, you go to New York, you go to LA, you go to all these other places, and it's just like, you get to see things a lot differently now. So
Absolutely. Well, and that's one of the wonderful things about you too, because it's allowed me, just working on trust, right, in general, and just being able to confide in you as my friend who happens to be white, right? And I can say these things to you that could be offensive to you, but because of who you are and because you know me, I'm able to express to you like, hey, I don't trust you right now, and it's not about you, but this is where I'm at. And so that has helped me to really open and to heal, just having that space. So it's vital to surround yourself with people of that sort, white or black, right, or brown or whatever, but to make sure you have that support system in this healing process.
And I'll say it's important for me. I don't think I would have been able to handle a lot of that stuff as well as I have been, or understand, or be compassionate, or whatever, if I didn't
Yeah.
start to educate myself on the
Yeah.
whole systemic issue and how
Yeah.
much, internal racism I've had, that you just don't realize at all. You don't understand your privilege and all of this until you really start like actually having conversations and reading and,
Yeah.
hearing from others, because you're not faced with it when you're surrounded by white people all the time. You can watch on the news, you can have conversations, but if you don't
Right.
have white friends,
Yeah.
white coworkers that you're talking to,
Yeah.
it's just all peripheral.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
you're just not. So bringing me into,
Bring me.
yeah. So,
Yes.
we've talked, let's just go right into it. Can you
Yeah.
speak a little bit to internalized racism?
Well, I love that you asked that question because I was about to go there anyway.
Of
Because a
course.
big, because a big part of this, all of this, is like, me navigating the spaces with white people. It's vital for us as Black people to navigate this space of working with internalized racism, and it's something that is on the edge. I think that it's spoken about. I've been in a couple of healing groups and it's touched upon, but it is vital to, when we talk about dismantling racism, it's as important for Black people to heal and to work with the impacts of internalized racism as it is vital for you as a white person to work with white privilege to dismantle the systemic racism. So internalized racism is basically Black people or people of color, marginalized people who have bought into the beliefs and the ideas of racist, the racist systems, right? And so we basically, I will speak for myself, is my experience has been that I thought I was inferior. And in fact, there was something about the white woman that I put on this pedestal, that they were my savior and that they were superior to me, and that I was looking for them to save me. And it was when I came to terms with that, you know, even now, just as I'm working through it, it's a hard reality, right? Because if we believe that, if I was believing that, which I was, then I'm going to act according to. And I did, right? Like, so not thinking that I was worthy of certain things, of success or whatever it may be. And so it's damaging. And if we, and what we tend to do also is like, we project our insecurities onto Black leaders who are actually standing in the fight and doing the work. We project our shit onto them. And so we look at them in distrust. So it's a real, that's why it's so vital that we work and heal through the impacts of internalized racism. Like, we really need to start talking about that much more and start healing that on the ground level.
Will you expand a little bit on the
yeah.
distrust of the Black leaders projecting onto that? I didn't quite
Yeah.
understand.
Well, there's this, it's like, if this insecurity, not trusting of myself. So how am I to trust another?
Oh,
Right.
okay.
And then
Okay.
so if it's a Black person, and it's not always the case, but it can be the case, right? Like, we can project those energies onto anybody. And so, you know, I'll give you an example. This is not from a leader standpoint, but I was at Wash Park, and I think I shared this with you, and it actually really broke my heart. And I saw a Black couple walking. It was probably 10 o'clock on a Friday night, maybe. And I was on my bike, and I was like, okay, I really wanted to talk with them, because I wanted to first say, hi, I see you, right? Like, we're the only Black people in this area right now, which is often the case. And also I wanted to know how they felt to be in that space. Like, did they feel safe? Like, what was their feel? And so I you know, rode up behind them, and I made sure that I was careful, because I didn't want to frighten them, one, right? Like, it was 10 o'clock at night. But also, I mean, I was a stranger. So as I started to approach them, the girl stopped and completely pulled away from me. And the guy just kept walking, put his head down and like walked to his car, wouldn't even look at me. And I stopped, and I was like, hey, I just wanted to say hi. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to scare you. I didn't mean to roll up on you like that. Like, I just wanted to make sure you're safe. And so he made a comment. He was like, yeah, neighborhood watch. And I was like, you think I'm neighborhood watch, man? I'm just like, from sister to brother, I'm just trying to, you know, reach out to you. I just wanted to say hi and make sure you're safe. And so that's the kind of thing I'm talking about. It ended up okay, but I rolled away like in tears, because it became very, very clear. And this wasn't the first time, but I always have hope. But it was very, very clear that there was a distrust. And it's like, we're not even able to trust each other as Black people, right? And so, again, that tells me that there's so much healing that needs to occur in the Black communities.
That's big.
Yes, it is big. I need a drink.
It's kind of sinking in a little bit, because it's that whole thing, you know, that we learn in all of our like spiritual seeking and studies, like, you can't love another unless you love yourself.
Yeah.
All that sort of thing. But honestly, if you don't trust yourself, how can you trust other people? So that's just like a really good example of that. And that's like, yeah. It's something that I don't think a lot of us fully, you know, I'm sure we experience it at different times, but.
Yeah. Well, how has my experiences, like sharing my experiences with you, how has that changed the way that you navigate in the world? As far as, I know I'm not interviewing you, but you know how I do.
I know you always want to switch it over. I'll answer one question in this interview, and then it's back to you.
All right.
You were gonna finish. You were gonna complete that question now.
Yeah. So just navigating the spaces, like how you show up in spaces where I don't know if you've ever been in a space where you are actually the only white person, or right, so you haven't had that experience, but even navigating and seeing a Black person being the only Black person in a white space, how does that change the way that you're in that space? Like, have you noticed any changes for you around that?
Well, I mean, there's definitely, yeah, I mean, a more of a heightened sort of like,
Mm.
what am I thinking? What are like it's this
Yeah, yeah,
hyper vigilance and like, like this spotlight on things, and you're constantly like questioning anything that's happening in your mind and like saying, oh, what sort of racist sort of like lenses am I looking through right now? Or what am I trying to overcompensate for? Like
hmm.
because you just want to be on the other end, you want to make it known that, you are trustable and that, but there's so much background there that it's not even like maybe I'm not. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah.
so I think it's just kind of this weird discomfort sort of thing, which I think
Hmm.
is great. I think we all need to go through it for a while, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah.
And, I did go through to that, that graduation ceremony with you when you
Oh,
were doing
yes.
that. What was it called again?
This is Race Talk University.
Race Talk University, when we
Yeah.
were, they did a little breakout groups and stuff like that, and you go in and the leaders, the discussion group leaders brought up topics where, that was a very mixed room for sure,
Hmm.
and it's just one of those things that I learned this from the white fragility as well, that it's not something that we're right now. It's not about everyone just becoming friends, like
Hmm.
it's
Yeah,
more
I
about
do.
like I'm willing to see and hear what you think is really fucked up.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I'm willing to feel, and I don't have to take it personally. I
Hmm.
can feel what's happening with just the cultures in general. So like the waking up to the different ideas of internal and structural racism, all that kind of stuff. Like I don't have to take it personally right now, but I do. It
Yeah,
doesn't feel good.
yeah,
A lot of things aren't going to feel good for a while as we start to realize the reality of shit. And
yeah,
so these different, when you have like the different groups happening and the education, diversity training, and all this kind of stuff. It's not like, hey, let's all come in and just be friends. It's more like,
yeah.
no, let's come in and express like the underlying shit that is deep, 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 deep,
Deep, deep.
and start talking about it and see how we can get on the other side and start to be empathetic and
Amen.
start to feel, rather than like, hey, I just want to be your friend, let you know you can trust me. Like, no,
Yeah,
you need to see where you've got some, weird, fucked up wiring from,
yeah,
decades and centuries of really messed up programming.
yeah.
And so that's one of the biggest things for me is first it was just kind of mind blowing, like just to so much to comprehend. And then now it's just like, okay, how can I show up and can I allow myself to be awkward and can I allow
Hmm.
conversations to happen where I might not say the right thing and can I go home and not feel bad about it? Just know that this is part of the process.
Yeah.
So it's just
Amen.
a lot. It's a lot that comes up on my end, like
Yeah, I'm sure.
I'm trying to do, the work and learn. Um, but it's also like, once again, I'm in Denver, I'm in white land, I'm
Yeah.
not surrounded by a lot of color.
Well, and that's the thing, and I've had this conversation with many white people. It's like, how do I, like, because there's not a lot of color, how do I get myself in those environments? It's like, and and it's also the reluctancy of doing that because it is so uncomfortable. And there, I love that you said that piece about like, I'm not here to be your friend, because I think that's,
I mean, I'd like to, but
well,
I
right,
can't
but
expect that.
exactly, because the trust does need to be built, and the best way for trust to be built is definitely, for me with you, you're a great example. I see you doing the work. And so if I know that you're doing the work, you're making an effort, and you know that this is something that it needs to be addressed, that it's something that you need to acknowledge as a white woman and to acknowledge me as your Black friend, then I that builds trust right there, right? It's in the action. And so, and I've learned that myself. Like, we can talk all day long, and we can say, I'm here for you, I support you. But if you're not doing the work, if you're not reading the books, if you're not having anti-racist book clubs or whatever, and when I say book clubs, I'm talking about, you're in it talking about real life issues, right? Like you're relating the book to real life issues, or the book is nonfiction, and so you can relate it to life very easily. But I'm saying like it's in the action. And so when white people say like I support you again, it's like I have a hard time believing it and trusting it unless I see you doing the work. So that's, I mean, that's where it's at.
So I can't just get a Black Lives Matter sign and call it a day? All right.
Right.
Like your
You got,
friend who's, dealing
yeah.
with that horrible situation down in 5 Points.
Yes, right.
Let me look at some of the other questions that I have in front of me
Sure,
that I want.
sure. Please do
Um,
it.
well, let's talk about your, let's see.
What I'm
In
doing
what
right now?
ways, what? What?
What I'm doing right now? Oh, go ahead.
What?
I'll let you
No, my
interview
question
me.
was, in what ways can Black and brown women start to heal now? So, like, I know
Yeah.
there's a lot of like, and can we talk a little bit about the women when it's spelled WOMXN? Will you
We
tell
sure can.
me what that means? Because I've seen it recently, and I know that it came in your bio, and what does that mean?
Yeah, so women, it is formed by men, like the word men, right? So it encompasses the word men. So basically, women with an X includes transgender and non-binary people, right? So it
Oh,
opens it
okay.
up, right? So it's not just defined to the binary way of being in the world.
Okay. Okay. Okay, so let's go back to my question. In what
Okay.
ways can Black and brown women start to heal now?
Well, I've already spoken to one of the things, and I know that this is vital. I have a circle of sisters, my dear hearts. I love to call you all, but surrounding yourselves with people who will take you as you are, where you can be completely broken down and hurt and angry with all that is going on in this world. It is vital to know that you have that circle of people that you can be whoever you are and show up how you are. So I think that's a huge component of the healing process. I definitely know for me, it is finding that spiritual component. And for me, that's nature, and it's also meditating and reading and writing and doing those things. So it's finding that thing. And I do want to say it's really important to discern between when I say spiritual, because there's a thing called spiritual bypassing, where you could be in that space of you're practicing on a spiritual level, but you're not really going within, right? You're using that spiritual thing, that vehicle, as a vehicle basically to say that you're doing the work. And then there's actually the spiritual side where you're actually going within and you're looking at yourself and you're observing without judgment and with a tremendous amount of love and grace. So that practice on its own, I mean, the practice of observing yourself and doing that without judgment is vital to the healing process as well, because you're able to really get a sense of how you're showing up, and that's how you begin to change. It's the same with racism, right? We cannot begin to change it if we do not acknowledge it. So it's the same with ourselves. And so those three things are, did I list three? Because I think I did. Nature or some
Oh,
spiritual, right? Because
yeah,
you
meditation. Meditation.
meditation or writing or whatever that is for you, and
Yeah.
again surrounding yourself with people that love you for who you are, that take you as you are, who you can actually pour into if you need to do that. It's vital, because one thing this about me is that I can fall into a space of solitude in a deep way, which I think is very important. But I also believe that we need to have that other side of things. And you've helped me pull me out of those moments at times where, I'd rather just stay inside and just do my work by myself. But sometimes we need to have that group of people that we trust.
Yeah, and especially you, because you know that me and so many other people are just gonna be like, get out of the house, D. You got a
I know.
lot of people to, like reach and
Yeah,
talk to and stuff. But I know this has been a really important time for you to be,
absolutely. Yeah, yeah.
solo and to dive deep. I want to ask though, like, where are you finding, like, if you need to find this, this group of people, you have us,
Yeah.
you have people you can trust, me and
Yeah.
some other close friends I know. But if you want to connect more with people of color and people in your situation, like
Yeah.
who come
Yeah.
from white backgrounds, so where are you finding your communities of support that have
Excuse me.
more in common with you?
That's a beautiful question, girl, because it is challenging to find. And I fell into a couple of beautiful women. I facilitate the Well Read Black Girl Book Club, which is by Gloria Edom. It's a beautiful organization. She brought it together to amplify the voices of Black authors. And so the first time I started, or my first facilitation of this book club, I met two women who had the same experience growing up, right? Like this internalized racism was deep for them and is still deep. Like they're working through it. So I found those two, and I've been talking with them about, starting this healing group, which I've been dragging my feet, but we're going to do this now. I have a date. And so it's challenging. I mean, real honestly, it's challenging. And so I don't know how and where to find those people, but I definitely, it's just a matter of, I've felt like just putting myself out into different spaces and then seeing what comes.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, there are meetups and such like that, and I'm starting to fall into more of those things, right? There's like something called, I think it's Black Outdoors, or Black Afro Outdoors or something like that. I don't know, but I know that there are a lot of Black women that are involved in that. And I'm sure, like, I bet you I can meet, I can't imagine that I'd meet one Black person who said that they didn't need healing from the impacts of internalized racism, right? Like, we all need that healing. So,
And that goes back to, once again, I just want to redefine that again, repeat the definition of just the belief that you are lesser.
basically, like, we take on the racist ideology, the
Mm-hmm.
white supremacy ideology.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
That just seems so like, ugh,
But
just
you think about,
heartbreaking. It
yeah,
makes
I mean,
sense.
right? Like, I mean, we're a product of our environment. And not to
Mm-hmm.
say, my mom had her beliefs and such. And, there were certain things that she said to me that I remember one time she said this to me, and I don't even know that my mother is aware that she said this to me, but I was going on it was my first trip, and for a college trip. I was going on spring break, down to South Padre. And I don't know the context of it, but my mother said, you cannot have what they have. And of course, I was hanging out with predominantly white people. They got cars for graduation and all the things. So, and I don't know that she's aware of her even saying that, but that's what I'm saying. Like, it's in our language sometimes that we're not even aware that it's oppressive, right? And there's no, I mean, I know my mother's love for me. There's no doubt about that. It's nothing personal. It's just that ingrainment, right? Like, what's in us and what's been from generation to generation to generation,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it's working. There's work to do. It's deep. It's really deep. I know, deep breaths, huh?
There's so much, and there's so much. I'd love to have you. I mean, we have a decent amount of time left.
Yeah.
I definitely want to get to your, talk about the Empower Black Project
Yeah,
and what
yeah,
it's all about.
yeah.
Before we get there, let's just talk a little bit about white privilege.
Okay. What would you
I
like to
think
talk
it's
about?
worth, giving some time in this conversation about really, what that is in the gross sense and in the macro and the micro sense.
Okay. And how would do you have a question? Do you have a specific question, or are you just wanting to talk about, like, how it shows up
Yeah,
for
let's just
me?
why don't you just give some examples of how it's showing, of, maybe what stood out in most recent days that maybe didn't before for you, or, just, but people aren't realizing that's right in front of us that we aren't even seeing.
Well,
Some of
yeah.
it's blatant, like, well, just, I'm going to open it up to you. I
Why
just want
don't
to
you
hear what
open
you
it?
have to say.
Go ahead.
Nope.
Oh, you're not going to open it up for me. You want, like,
No, I said I'm opening it up to you.
thank you. Um, Well, I'm sitting with that because what comes up for me when you talk about white privilege is I immediately went into like microaggressions, right? And how I have, and so I may get off the question a little bit and we can come back to it, but how I've been complicit in the white supremacy system, the system of white supremacy, right? And so, and I think this can kind of go in with white privilege, but like thinking about the many times that I have allowed my white friends to say things to me in their privilege, perhaps. Like I can say that to you, right? Because I'm your friend. Like, you know, I can say, and you're not like the other black people. You're not really black. You're not really black. And like just little things like that where I was like, I took that on, like I didn't say anything. It was kind of like this weird compliment, but not like it didn't feel good in my soul. So it's this like, I guess I can't really explain it right in this moment, but I'm feeling into like the microaggressions and the allowance of the maltreatment of me as a black woman, if you will, and the degradation of me as a black woman, and letting it kind of just be fluffed off, like it's just a light thing because we're friends and we can talk like that, we can do that. And so I think that white privilege can be worked in that way, like having the privilege, like you basically can say whatever you want to me. And let me, I guess that kind of leads me into this, like thinking of white privilege. When I think about code switching and I think about, are you familiar with code switching? So basically because English is the language of America, right? Like European, like we speak in the language, English is the native tongue, if you will. And so black people are predominantly in those spaces. Of course, we've already said that, in white spaces. And if we speak of our tongue, which is, you know, that's another thing I was going to say, a microaggression someone has said to me, is like, to me to talk black. So if we speak in our tongue, it sounds very different than how white people speak, right? And so when we're like at work or we're in white spaces, wherever that is, we speak so that we can be understood. And so we change the way that we speak. Like if I'm hanging at home with my family, I feel that I'm not code switching, but I know that I am because it's just what we do. I definitely, there's a different cadence to my language that happens. That doesn't necessarily happen when I'm around white people. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, yeah, it sounds interesting. It's kind of like you always kind of have to level with your white surroundings rather than,
Yes. Thank you.
white ever
Yes.
leveling with black
Right.
or
Because
people of color.
yeah, and so and this is another example. I was just reading an article. It's race equity. It's beautiful resources, and they were talking about there was a party and it was predominantly white, and there were 5 black women that were standing in the corner, and they were talking. I mean, that's comfortable, right? Like that you navigate towards what you know. We all do that, and the white woman, the host, came up to them and said, "Why are all the black people over here in the corner?" Now, why does not anybody ever say or call out white people standing in a corner together, right? Like, why is it that it's these black people standing in a corner that draws attention to a group of white people, right? That all the black people are together, all the white people are together. So it's situations like that, right? Like that's when I think of white privilege, I think of that, like having, you can move through the world without question and just be where you are, how you are, and there's no question, you're not drawn out. So that's that's what came up for me when you said white privilege.
Well, and that's, I
And there are
think,
many other things too.
yeah, that's a situation that you probably know, more because of it's a unique thing as being a black woman versus just white privilege in general. We could go down the list of
Well,
like,
right.
like as far as, crime and being like who's going to be profiled as, as a criminal and who's not.
Yeah.
Who's going to have a better chance of getting a job or a house in this neighborhood and who's not. Who's going to, let their kids hang out with who. Like, I think the list is just super long that you and I are probably just like, it doesn't really need to be said as much, but I think a lot of
Sure.
people just don't even like sit back and really feel and think about how constant you have to be on guard all the time, and how there's just always, you have to go an extra step up in order to try and be level or try and have the same opportunities.
Absolutely. When
And
I
yeah, it's just so much.
Well, I appreciate you honing us back in, because I realized I was kind of moving a
No,
little
no,
bit
no.
all over.
I wanted your examples, but I
Yeah,
also feel like some people are listening to this who, um, it's easy to not think about the different, blatant examples of white privilege.
sure, sure. And I this is a big one that comes up for me a lot, and I also want to
Even in
just
poor communities, maybe you can bring up that too. Even in poor communities, there's white privilege. No matter where it is, there's always one step up of white privilege generally,
yeah,
as
yeah,
far as like what you are going to be, given or offered in the world. Even if
absolutely,
it's just like two people in a really poor community, like that's
absolutely.
just,
Well, and so, but I was going to speak to is, first and foremost, I want to just be very clear on um, like although we have been victims to oppression and such in this world, like it's important to us as Black people, and I know you know this about me, that we have been victims, but we don't have to be the victims. Like, we've been victimized is what I'm saying. We don't have to be the victims of it, right? Like, and I think that's important. Like, I just want to make sure that I'm coming across as like, this is what's happening in the world, and we all know this. I'm no expert. These are my experiences, and what are we going to do about it? And so I love that we're talking about these situations too, right? Because I think, like you said, it is something that goes unnoticed, and especially by white people. And one of the great examples that I wanted to just bring up very quickly is, and it triggers me every single time, where I see a kid's party in the park, and they're all running around with their guns, with their water guns, whatever it is they're doing, and they're all white. And I think, that is such a privilege. Do you understand the privilege that you have, that you're in the park with your kids and they're running around with guns, and you don't have to worry about a cop rolling up, or your kids like going off somewhere and being threatened by a cop or killed or anything like that? So it's like little things like that that white people don't think about at all. And I've seen that so much, obviously it's summer and you see these kids running around with guns, and I don't ever see a Black kid doing it. It's always a bunch of white kids. And I just think, wow, look at that privilege. And I wonder if they're even aware of that. Just the simple things of kids. In the park. So I think that's just really huge, that white people start looking at what is their privilege, whether they're, under, like, they're poor, or however you want to put it,
no, I
or
like
more
that example
affluent.
too. I was just,
Yeah,
talking about some of the blatant ones that have been
yeah,
brought up in some of the stuff I've read.
yeah,
But no, those things are the more nuanced
yeah,
that we don't
exactly.
think about. We don't have to think about, so we
Yeah,
don't.
yeah,
You know.
right.
Well,
Yeah,
okay. Given, so you brought up the fact of like, taking action,
yes,
versus not. So let's talk about the Empower Black Project, what it is.
yeah. So the Empower Black Project. I just like saying it.
Good.
It
Keep saying
feels, yeah, it feels very powerful to me, because what it makes me think of is, like, basically us as Black people uplifting ourselves and uprising, and like knowing our worth. And so again, as I said earlier, the mission is to inspire really Black people to love themselves from the inside out through self-discovery and healing. And so, because the Empower Black Project is still sprouting from the seed that I just recently planted. So I mean, it's all coming as it comes. And the first thing that seems very important to me is the healing. So the healing circles that will begin on October 17th. And so I will, if anybody's interested in joining, I will be starting that, like I said, on October 17th. It will be for 6 to 8 weeks, and we will meet weekly for 2 hours in the morning on Saturday mornings. And creating a support system, and so that we can really start digging into the impacts of healing the internalized racism, amongst other things that come, right? But just creating that community that I know that I need, and so I know that other Black women need it. And that will actually be $25, and I'm charging only because I feel my experience has shown that when people pay for things, then they'll show up. And it is vital that we all show up together, that we know that we can support one another and that we will be there for one another every turn. But all of the proceeds will go to a foundation that it's yet to be determined, but I will determine that before the 17th. And so if anybody wants information about that, I'll drop my email into the link. Can we do that, Nick?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Drop my email in the link, and then please reach out to me personally. So do you want to say something?
I want to say one thing about,
yes,
the money part.
Yes, please.
I feel like, and I've, yoga teachers, we all kind of slide into this same sort of thing. And it's like, it costs to live, living
totally
costs. And in order for us to do what we want to do, we have to make money. And like
totally.
So we can pay for our rent, because we can pay for all of our stuff.
Absolutely.
Just life.
Yes.
And
absolutely.
I feel like ultimately there's no reason, no shame, no, it's not wrong for you to be paid for cultivating and setting these things up. Like,
Amen.
I would rather have you spending your time doing all of this work than doing this work for free and then going to your day job to get paid.
Totally.
Like, go get paid for your work.
Amen.
So that you can do it all the time.
Amen. And I agree with you. Absolutely. And I feel like because I am walking this walk with people, and I want to be very clear on this too. Again, I will say I am no expert, but this is like, as I speak, I walk, and as I walk, I learn alongside all of you. Like, I'm doing this with everyone, and I'm learning and I'm healing at the same time. And I would agree with you. I absolutely know that I'm worthy of getting paid. Absolutely. This right now is where I'm at with this. And it feels good to me to do it for that purpose, like for the purpose of donating to a foundation and to hold people accountable. And then down the line, there will be a different, story for sure. But this is where I'd like to begin with it. But I hear you completely. And I do know that I'm worthy. And I do know that I'm worthy. I do know that now. So yeah.
I just really want you to be able to do this work ultimately,
sure.
And not have to have another job.
Me too. That's my goal, sister. And so I think, speaking about the seed of the Empower Black Project, I know, like I said, this is the first step, and it will grow as it comes. I will know, and it will continue to grow. And I trust that. And I know that it's me just getting out of the gate, right? And just taking that first step. So I want to thank you.
When you guys get together?
For that. It's virtual. It will be virtual.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Isn't that, it didn't even occur to me. I was like, I just see you in a park.
Well, so do I. You know me in parks. I'll be in the park all day.
I'll be
dancing all day, all long.
Okay, cool.
So that's one piece. And then the other piece I haven't shared with you, but I'm going to start, it's called Info Wednesdays. And I call it Info Wednesdays because it's like, I'm in for Wednesdays. I know, you know me, I'm so quirky. Yeah, I'm in for Wednesdays. Yep, I'll be there. So, but it's also information, and it's definitely bringing It's about bringing awareness to issues that impact Black people. And so, what I would like to do on Wednesdays, maybe 15, maybe 30 minutes, I'm going to drop some information in. So right now we're focusing on voting, and I know that for me, navigating through politics and on the local and state level even has been overwhelming. And so as I learn, I figured that I could teach and share at the same time. Not so much teach, but just offer information, right? And so once a week, that will start the first Wednesday of October. So I think it's the 7th, that I will just share pieces of information of like, who our mayor is, who's the governor is, who this chief of police is, and where to go, what resources, and all of the things. So just try to guide people as I'm guiding myself. And
I
so,
love it.
yeah, so that's another piece, and that's where I'm at.
That's why I'm doing these interviews. I just kind of decided the other day, I'm just like, I'm so busy just trying to like hustle and trying to get everything in line so that I'm
Yeah,
okay through all this
yeah,
and so that I can thrive. Like, obviously, I want to
amen.
thrive in business.
Yeah,
But like, I just don't have time to read the books that I want to read, to take the courses I want to take, to stay up on all the stuff that helps me be a great coach.
mm-hmm.
You know, like
Yeah,
medical, neuroscience, diet, like all this stuff. It's just like,
yeah,
that's what I want to be doing. But since I'm busy uploading and downloading videos and having technical problems, like 6 hours, a day, 4 days a week,
right.
that cuts into it. So it's like, okay, well, I'm just going to get the best, most brilliant people on once a
I
week
love
or
that.
more and talk about great shit. And then I'm going to learn at the same time. I'm going to have something to share with other people too.
Yeah, yeah,
So it's
yeah.
like, where can we, like line stuff up right now so that we're benefiting as we're doing the work. So
Exactly, exactly.
right there, sister.
Yeah, well, you
Hey,
inspired me with that too. So yes.
good, good, good.
Yeah.
I think you should do interviews too. And I don't do your info. Oh, actually, no, your info is just going to be
Infa,
information. It's not going to be
Infa
info
Wednesdays.
Wednesday, info, INFA.
Yeah, Info
Okay.
Wednesdays.
Look at me just being like, so just don't do it at 2 o'clock because that's when we do the interviews.
Right.
Awesome. But
Yeah.
it's just info, so it's not a video.
Exactly.
So that's good. Okay, so I just want to reiterate, I just want to see if I remember correctly. So 6 weeks on Saturdays in the morning, starting October 17th, something like that.
That is correct. Yes.
You guys are going to get together on Zoom. I'm going to post a link and you're going to post it all over your stuff.
Yes, I am.
And your work, Empower Black Project, is more about healing. It's less about getting on the street and protesting.
Yeah.
This is more about internal healing
Going
from
inside.
within for
Yeah.
anybody who's dealing with internalized racism.
Absolutely. And I would love to actually, like I was saying, be a support to activists in that way. Like as I grow and as I learn, to create that space for them to come and to heal and to do that work, because it's vital to keep them on the ground, right? Like, and I feel, and I don't know, I can't know for sure, but it's that piece that gets put on the back burner, the healing, because it's like, go, go, go. We got work to do. We got work to do. Right. So
No,
it's
that's
just, yeah,
such a good point.
yeah,
And I can't think of anything better for you because I wasn't even sure before. We've talked,
yeah,
about different things that you want to start and get involved in, but I didn't really fully understand what this project was going to be about. And
yeah.
I think of me and everybody who knows you, which is most Denver, honestly, just knows that you're about heart. You're about heart and healing, and you have like just a magical power around people to calm them, and just like your eyes and just everything. So to create a setting and environment where people can cry and talk and
Yeah.
heal and be loved and be gushy rather than having to gather up the strength to, make change in that way.
Yeah.
I think it's super beautiful and like perfect. So for the work for you.
Thank you, friend. I appreciate that. Yeah, because you've seen me through it. You've seen me through it,
I have seen.
and you will continue to see me through it. I know that for sure. So
I'm going to see a lot of people sign on, but I turned off comments so that you wouldn't have your face covered throughout this whole thing. So let me just see if there's like anything.
Any questions?
Well, questions or just other stuff. Oh, there they are. Turn on commenting. Let's see who's Jane. Let's see, who are all these people? Paige.
Oh, Jay.
Jay, Barb, BLM, hashtag, Vince, Barbara, Beth Sanchez. She said, look at you two beauties. That's nice.
I love it. That's nice.
That's nice. Sarah Wessel, my sister, Brad,
Al,
Jackie.
yeah.
Oh, Erica. Can you see all these names?
I can see now. Yeah.
Oh,
Erica.
okay, good.
I can see some.
We don't really have time for like
questions or anything.
But
okay. What is
that's okay. What?
Yona. I think that's Yona. Yeah.
Where?
Great job, friends. Great job, friends. Well, I love, thank you all. I want to just say this too, Nick. Well, first of all, you for getting my ass on this joint. Let's just say that, because honestly, if it weren't for you, like, hey D, when are we gonna do this? This would not be happening in this moment. So I want to say thank you to that. And I want to say there's my sister. I want to
Jackie.
say Jackie. I want to say thank you to all of you beautiful people that are watching right now and who have supported me and loved me and believed in me and continue to. And I know that you'll be here as I grow and as I continue to learn. But I want to say thank you all for just knowing that that I can, and for reminding me of that in the moments where I didn't and I wouldn't. So it's very, very important to me, and I'm so deeply grateful. And I look forward to walking this with all of you. I have no idea what's to come, but I am open to it.
You just
So
take
let's do
one
this.
step at a time, and the
Yeah.
opportunities just come to you, as we've talked about. You don't really have to look for too much at this point. You just put yourself out there, and people are
Yeah.
like, hey, can you help us with this? I got
Yeah.
this situation, as we've observed already. So,
Yeah.
okay, so that's happening. And then Info Wednesdays, is that through your social media channels?
Instagram.
Basically just Instagram. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And probably Facebook too, for people who
Absolutely. And we'll be there as well. So I'll be posting stuff when it gets closer to time around that, just so you'll know what to look out for. But
okay.
yes. And I'm also volunteering. I guess this doesn't affect you, but you may be getting a call from me with Let My People Vote. So it is in collaboration with Soul to Soul Sisters. And so I'm very, very excited about that, because it's really focusing on the Black community, because, you know, we don't vote sometimes. Like, there are a lot of us that don't vote and don't think that our vote makes a difference. And so really bringing awareness to political issues to the Black community. So I'm volunteering for that, which I'm very, very excited for, because in that I get to learn as well. So
share everything about all of that with all of us, please.
Say that again.
I said share everything about that with all of us, please, because it's a big deal.
It is a big deal, for sure. Absolutely.
Okay, so 22 seconds remaining.
Okay.
Thank you, Dameda.
Thank you, sweetie.
This was super awesome. Thank you, everybody who tuned in. My name's Nikki Aiello. Follow me on my coaching page. You'll see all my cool stuff that I do. Bye.
I love you.
Love you.